Fanfic Corner, presented by Jennifer. Long day. The trip back from the market took longer than expected. The city of Lethal was packed with natives and travelers. Hunter thought the quick side quest for materials would have been faster, but he truly underestimated their time. Not only were they stuck on the whole other side of town, but night had already fallen. He wished he had listened to Tech and Echo's warning before leaving the ship. They had reminded him about the population and how crowded the streets normally were. But he assumed they were looking at the worst case scenario. He sighed, annoyed with his mistake of not heeding the information given to him. He took a quick glance behind him, relieved that Omega didn't seem bothered by the constant walking. Crosshair, on the other hand, seemed to be extremely irritated. Hunter rubbed the back of his head, hoping for a second of peace in the motion, only to be interrupted by a barely existent rumble in the distance. The sergeant glanced up at the sky as a single dollop of water hit his nose. "Great," he muttered, shifting the backpack strap more comfortably on his shoulder. "I felt it too." Hunter turned his head to the side as Crosshair walked over, looking at the darkening sky. Hunter shook his head. "We're still too far out, and it's already 2300. We don't have enough credits to stay anywhere," he said with frustration in his voice. "Good planning," Crosshair commented sarcastically, without even looking at the sergeant. Hunter shot him a glare. "Save it, Cross." He was too annoyed with the whole situation to do any more than reprimand. "Just saying, if you planned better, we wouldn't be in this situation." The sniper shrugged, knowing how to press his brother's buttons at the right moment. Hunter opened his mouth to snap back, but stopped as a blonde head of hair appeared at his side. "Are we almost back to the Marauder?" Omega asked, probably wondering why they had suddenly stopped. Omega enjoyed the adventure for the day. She had tried new foods, talked to new people, and overall got to see how normal people lived. There were a lot more kids her age, and while on a short break, Hunter allowed her to play with some of them. She played a game similar to the one Shea and Jack showed her, but here they used their feet. With all the activity, Omega could feel her energy starting to dwindle. She noticed her demeanor shift when she saw that it was past her bedtime a whole hour and a half ago. She didn't dare say anything to Hunter or Crosshair. She didn't want to be a burden with her tiredness, so she continued walking, pushing the drowsiness away. About an hour left. Think you can hold on? Hunter dropped his gaze down to the young girl. He hated how he could see the bags starting to form under her eyes. Omega didn't argue or complain, though. Not that he expected her to. She never did. She simply nodded and wiped at her eyes again, which pained Hunter the most. Come on. He gently patted her back with his hand that was free of supplies as they started their trip once more. It didn't take long before the rain picked up. The lights from the warm buildings reflected off the puddles on the ground as more raindrops splashed softly on the street. How much longer? The stupid water is going to start soaking into my blacks sooner or later. Crosshair bit. He regretted coming on the mission. The only reason he volunteered to go was to get away from Tech and Wrecker, who had, for the past few days, been getting on his nerves. He didn't expect something so simple as fetching supplies to go wrong. He would much rather be back on the ship than walking through the streets in the rain. 30 minutes, Hunter snapped back, not looking to deal with Crosshair and his attitude. The sniper rolled his eyes, but figured it wasn't worth fighting back, even if it was fun making Hunter mad. He carried on, but slowed upon the subtle feeling that something was missing. The whole trip, if she wasn't glued to Hunter's side, Omega would be next to him. The sniper quickly scanned the area, only to find the child's pace had reduced to being several feet behind him. Omega stumbled on. Her whole body felt heavy as her aching feet stepped forward one after the other in short strides. Every so often she would lose sight of her brothers, causing her to shake herself alert and run after them, only to have the same thing happen minutes later. The rain wasn't making it any easier. Keep up or else you'll be left behind, Keep up or else you'll be left behind, she heard Crosshair hiss, sending fear through her. The girl's face forced herself to stay awake, despite her whole body telling her otherwise. She wouldn't be left alone again. Crosshair could see that Omega's eyes widened at the last part of his sentence. He bit his lip. Maybe that part was too much, but at least it made her walk faster. However, that didn't even last for 5 minutes. Once more, one more eye she'd feel behind. Crosshair turned around, walking back towards the kid, who immediately perked up upon seeing him. I'm sorry. I'm not mean to fall behind, she slurred, tossing a wet curl off her forehead. It's fine. Crosshair wondered how Hunter didn't seem to notice anything. He assumed he was just focused on getting back as soon as possible, and in doing so, forgetting about his child. I'll keep up, Omega said, looking at him with tired eyes. The marksman knew she couldn't. She would end up either passing out or getting lost, which would then cause them to arrive back even later. Crosshair let out a sigh. Of course, it came down to this. I'll carry you, he offered, bending down to her height. Omega didn't have it in her to argue. She practically fell into Crosshair's arms, feeling relief as she no longer had to hold herself up. She felt a soft material being wrapped around her as the rain no longer hit her freezing body. She didn't bother to try and keep her eyes open any longer. The calm, steady steps of her brother, along with the pattering of the rain, lulled her into a deep sleep. Crosshair placed his jacket over the girl, now having no protection from the rain, but at least stopping the small shiverings coming from the child. He could tell that she was out cold in less than a minute as her breath slowed. The marauder finally came into sight after what seemed like an eternity. Hunter ran his hand over his face. "All right, Omega. I want you to go straight to—" "Shut up, Hunter. You'll wake the kid." Crosshair's voice snapped at him in a harsh whisper. "What?" Hunter slowly turned around to see Omega fast asleep in the sniper's arms. The guilt hit him instantly. His brows scrunched up as he mentally cursed himself for his carelessness. "Quit feeling sorry for yourself," Crosshair said quietly. "She's fine. Just past her bedtime," he assured. "Still, I should have checked on her more. It's my fault that—" Omega began to stir slightly in Crosshair's arms. For a brief second, they thought she would wake, letting out a breath of relief when she didn't. Sorry, Cross. I'll do better next time," Hunter apologized. "I'll put her to bed." He held his arms out as Crosshair passed the sleeping child over. "Thank you for taking care of her," Hunter whispered over his shoulder to the sniper. Crosshair brushed off the praise. Yeah, just don't mention it to anyone," he warned as they climbed up the ramp to the Marauder and finally back home after the long day.